At number 10, Charlie Sheen. The Plaza Hotel is one of the most elegant, prestigious, and well-known hotels in New York. Many of you may know it from Home Alone 2, but me, I know it from the 2009 film Bride Wars. If you know, you know. Well, no matter where you know it from, there is one person who will never step foot in there again, and that's Charlie Sheen. The former 2.5 Men star is reportedly banned from the hotel following an incident from 2010. It is said that Charlie had something of a destructive episode while high, where he caused thousands of dollars in damages to his suite. I wasn't able to find the exact monetary amount of damage that Charlie racked up, as there are reports from amounts of $7,000 all the way up to $20,000, but the bottom line here is that he shredded that room to pieces. He broke mirrors, TVs, and even reportedly had a woman hiding in his room screaming. The situation was so bad that police had to be called to escort the actor from the premises, and he's been permanently banned from the hotel ever since. Coming in at number 9, Kris Jenner. The Kardashian/Jenner clan are amongst the biggest and most famous A-list celebrities in Hollywood. Love them or hate them, they're still some of the biggest names in the entertainment industry, so you'd think that they'd be invited to all of the hottest parties, but no. Turns out there's at least one event that the Kardashians are not welcome to attend, and those are Oscar parties. If you can believe it, the Kardashians have been banned from all Oscar parties, and it's all Kris Jenner's fault. According to reports, Kris Jenner had been invited to an Oscars bash in the past until one event where she reportedly got drunk and was involved in some unacceptable behavior. This made the studio who was hosting the party look bad, so they issued a ban on the Kardashians. The reality family is known for being a little problematic, so the Oscars rep said none of that here, and they just won't welcome them back. But can you really blame them? Now, before I get into the rest of the video, I would like to ask you guys to leave a like on this video. It really helps out if you do, so if you're enjoying the video so far, please smash that like. And at number 8, Chris Brown. Chris Brown has a bit of a temper, as a few of you may already know, so it's no surprise that he's been banned from somewhere for being a bit unruly and aggressive. Chris is now banned from the Lifetime Athletic chain of gyms and fitness centers after his encounter with a manager from one of their New York City locations. Reports say that Chris and his friends were in a game of basketball when they started getting loud and unruly and started swearing at each other. As the manager came in to speak to the group and asked them to tone down their voices and music, that's when Chris got angry. According to TMZ, Chris, quote, went ballistic, screaming and swearing at the woman. Chris and his friends were then asked to leave, and Chris reportedly spat on the door on his way out. I mean, dude, all you had to do was stop being so loud and you could have finished your game. Now there is no game to be had.
In at number 10, Lana Del Rey. The beginning of the end for Lana Del Rey started with a letter that was a question for the culture. At the start of the letter she posted, Lana said, "Now that Doja Cat, Ariana, Camila, Cardi B, Kalani, and Nicki Minaj and Beyonce have had #1 songs about being sexy, wearing no clothes, cheating, etc., can I please go back to singing about being embodied, feeling beautiful by being in love, even if the relationship is not perfect, or dancing for money, or whatever I want, without being crucified or saying that I'm glamorizing abuse." This letter came after she was criticized for being anti-feminist and glamorizing abuse in her most recent album. However, this letter led to her being cancelled by the general public on Twitter because the majority of the artists that she mentioned were of color, which is why we saw the very punny hashtag, if you will, of Lana Del Racist starting to trend on Twitter. She did clarify later on that post was not meant to be racist and that she loves all of those artists, but the haters just weren't having any of it. In at number 9, Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star's cosmetics company has brought in hundreds of millions of dollars, and according to Forbes, he is now one of the most powerful figures in the industry. Star first rose to fame when his makeup vlogs on YouTube became very popular. From there, he went on to launch his own cosmetics line, but before that though, he was a modestly successful MySpace musician for a brief period of time. However, now that he is intertwined with all of the drama happening in the beauty community, he's being bombarded with hatred. Rightfully so. Cameron Lester called him and Shane Dawson out for using him as their token black friend for videos, and from there it just got worse. Shane and Jeffree's troublesome friendship really came about when Shane wanted to document Star in what would be called the beautiful world of Jeffree Star. Following Cameron's video, Jeffree left him a voicemail and denied his allegations against him. The voicemail was leaked to drama channels and contributed to the negative way that would soon erupt after Shane acknowledged the rumors about his role in the feud between Charles Westbrook and Star. In at number 8, Lea Michele. Something that adds to the pressure of filming is who you have to work with. If you're working in a toxic environment day after day and the person bullying you is the star, this can have some nasty outcomes. Lea Michele, for example, has been accused by several people for being an absolute nightmare to work with. Her co-star Matthew Morrison appeared via Zoom on Fubar Radio's Access All Areas and was asked about Lea's bullying, and he seemed to get visibly uncomfortable. He immediately attempted to downplay the accusations and shift topics by saying that bigger issues are going on in the world right now, which He's not wrong, but this is also something that we need to discuss. Here's a prime example of why the cast has had such a terrible time following the show. I think that whatever went on behind the scenes was kept very hidden from the public. They play these cheerful high school kids, but in reality they were all just adults with demons. Now, with Matt not acknowledging the accusation made against Leah and covering for her, it only discredits what these people have said about the former Glee star. In at number 7, Tory Lanez. Canadian rapper Tory Lanez, whose real name is Daystar Peterson, recently gained mass popularity throughout this pandemic by constantly doing Instagram live sessions. His show was called Quarantine Radio and featured a ton of content that broke the community guidelines of Instagram. That being said, he was still crowned the quarantine king by his followers. With clout around his name now, we saw Tory hanging around with the likes of Kylie Jenner and Megan Thee Stallion. Which brings us to what Tory is being exposed for and cancelled for right now. Megan was in the car with a friend, Tory, and a member of his security team driving through an LA neighborhood. Apparently an argument took place in the car that resulted in Megan deciding that she was going to just get out and walk to where she was staying. I guess it was just really close to where she was and she didn't want to be in that car anymore. However, before she could do so, Tory allegedly shot her in the foot. Well, not allegedly, she got shot in both feet and there's proof of that.
Since y'all so worried about it, yes, this Tory shot me. You shot me.
Either way, Meg calling Tory out led to many of his fans turning on him, and thus another celebrity was cancelled. In at number 6, Vanessa Hudgens. Vanessa Hudgens has had some major issues with her fans after departing from her once innocent Disney image. Her fans loved her in High School Musical, but when she started doing films like Spring Breakers, it seemed like she was trying too hard to break that image. When the lockdown started happening, she got herself into even more trouble while doing some Instagram live streams with her fans. Her fans were asking how she felt about the quarantine, and Hudgens said,
"Even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are gonna die. It's just terrible, but like, inevitable?"
At that point in time, no one really had any idea when these lockdowns would be lifted. You could clearly tell that she was annoyed by the inconvenience of needing to lock down to protect the sick and vulnerable. It's like, oh, sorry, Vanessa. But this kind of selfish behavior was frowned upon by many, believe it or not, including whatever fans that she had left. She did try to salvage her career by tweeting this reply that said, "Hey guys, I'm so sorry for the way I have offended anyone and everyone who has seen the clip from my Instagram live yesterday. I realize my words were insensitive and not at all appropriate for the situation our country and the world are in right now. This has been a huge wake-up call about the significance my words have, now more than ever. I'm sending safe wishes to everyone to stay safe and healthy during this crazy time." No mention of the, it's like inevitable that everyone will die. That's my impression of Vanessa Hudgens drunk on her Instagram live feed. In at number 5, Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams is no stranger to stirring up controversy with her daytime talk show appearances. In fact, it's probably the only reason why people actually tune in to watch her show. That being said, Wendy took things way too far when she decided to mock Joaquin Phoenix and the scar on his upper lip. She first told her audience that she finds him oddly attractive, but when he shaves off his mustache, he's got a hairline fracture. Then she goes on to add that it's a cleft palate right before she mocks people with cleft palates.
One of those, what do you call it? Cleft lip.
Yep.
Cleft palate.
Yep.
He's got this.
Yep.
He's got this.
Uh-huh.
No, I find it to be very attractive.
Canadian football player Adam Bighill was one of the many people that criticized Wendy for her remarks on social media. Adam tweeted, "Today is Beau's big day. He is getting his lip repaired today in Winnipeg by the fantastic Dr. Ross. Thanks to everyone who has reached out, and in advance, thanks for any of your well wishes for Beau. He is so loved." In response to the backlash, Wendy tweeted in response to Adam's post saying, "At BigHill44, we're thinking about Beau today as he is in surgery. I want to apologize to the cleft community, and in Beau's honor, our show is donating to Operation Smile and Aim Her Cleft Palate and encourage our Wendy watchers to learn more and help support the cleft community." You could have done that before people got mad at you. I really hate when these celebrities do that. They make a mistake in something and they're like, okay, I'll just throw money at it and that'll solve the issue. No, it doesn't. You cancel. In at number 4, Shane Dawson. After what happened to George Floyd, America went into civil unrest and the people demanded answers from law enforcement. Along with that, however, comes the necessary task of curating our culture to get rid of the problematic people who only add fuel to that fire. Get rid of sounds awful, but what I mean is hold them responsible so that we can admit our mistakes and move forwards as a society. The weirdest part about Shane Dawson doing blackface is that he's done it on more than one occasion, and done so in a time where we thought that people would be more tolerant. Even weirder is that when he apologized for taking his sketches too far with blackface, a bunch of his white fans were like, "Oh, we forgive you." Sorry to say this, but that apology wasn't meant for you. It's meant for the people that he was mocking, and I don't think letting this one slide is a wise idea. There have been so many red flags with Shane Dawson, but this one should have been the final straw. However, it wasn't, so he continued on as if nothing happened. In number 3, Chris D'Elia. D'Elia was cancelled and had been accused of grooming and attempting to solicit nude photographs from underage girls. A woman named Simone tweeted out a screenshot of her alleged interactions with Chris, which began a thread of other women sharing their interactions with him as well. The stories were all pretty horrific considering that they were allegedly all underage at the time that Chris had sent the messages to them. However, in response to having his name dragged through the mud online, Chris told TMZ, "I know I have said and done things that might have offended people during my career, but I have never knowingly pursued any underage women at any point." Chris then goes on to say, "All of my relationships have been both legal and consensual, and I have never met or exchanged any appropriate photos with the people who have tweeted about me." Either way, you cancelled. In at number 2, Ellen DeGeneres. When Kevin Porter tweeted out, "Right now, we all need a little kindness," you know, like Ellen DeGeneres always talks about. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Respond to this with the most insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll match everyone with $2 to LA Food Bank. And the response was overwhelming. However, for this point, let's just focus in on the ones about the bizarre rules for her staff, because that alone was enough to get her cancelled. Benjamin Simon said, "A, she has a sensitive nose, so everyone must chew gum from a bowl outside of her office before talking to her, and if she thinks you smell that day, you have to go home and shower." You have to go home and shower. Who does that? What a weird power move. You smell, so stop doing work for me, go home, shower, and then come back and stay late. Chelsea Babcock said, "When I was working on At Midnight, our stage manager told us to never work for Ellen. He told us she has signs up in her office that say, 'Do not look the host in the eye.' I'm sorry, but that's far from normal. Don't look her in the eye? What bizarre rules to have. How is she still tweeting, you know? Is she tweeting? I don't know. I feel like she's hiding in a cave somewhere at this point. Last but certainly not least, our number 1 spot, Kylie Jenner. Following the release of Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's very explicit new track, fans were taken by surprise with a cameo by Kylie Jenner. Many were waiting for her to start singing or something, but other people were fuming with anger for many other reasons. Beyond fears of Kylie busting out a verse on the track, many were calling her a culture vulture. Several memes were throwing shade at the appearance of Kylie and suggested that it was just another example of a white woman pulling the focus away from a black collaboration. That being said, you can't blame Cardi B for wanting to absolutely blow this song up with publicity, and she did just that. Having this many stars in your video is bound to have it shared a bunch of times, especially if there is even an ounce of controversy in any one of them. So far, a petition on change.org to cancel Kylie and have her removed from the song is at 67,000 signatures. A lot of mad people. Big mad. He mad, they mad.
At number 7, Madonna. It seems like Madonna has a record of being on her phone at inappropriate moments, and this is exactly what's led to getting her banned in a few places. First, let's talk about how the pop singer was sort of banned from the Alamo Drafthouse Theater. Back in 2013, Madonna was called out by a film critic during a screening of the film 12 Years a Slave. The critic wrote about how Madonna was texting during the first half of the film, and when the theater got a hold of this information, they issued a statement saying that she would be banned from the theater until she issues an apology. Now, after the scrutiny that she faced in 2013 at the movies, you'd think that she'd have learned her lesson from that, but oh no. She was also reportedly banned from seeing the Hamilton musical after she was caught by one of the show's stars, Jonathan Groff, for also being on her phone during the production. As a die-hard Hamilton fan, that hurts me to think that she'd disrespect that wonderful musical with her stupid texting. Lin-Manuel Miranda is more important than whoever you're texting, Madonna.
In at number 10, Liza Koshy. After a video of her using a mock Asian accent resurfaced, YouTuber Liza Koshy took to Instagram to apologize. Another clip included footage of Koshy pretending to speak Japanese. Her last video though is one simply titled "I am so sorry," and the video is simply a recording of her apology letter as the cursor blinks on the final words. In the letter she writes, "What I once thought of as innocent jokes were actually tainted with implicit bias, and what might have been intended as playful was actually to some incredibly painful. And for that, I am sorry." One of these videos in question was originally posted back in 2016 and includes Koshy putting on an Asian accent while tasting candy from Japan and Hawaii. Although she wasn't alone for this one, in that video was her fellow YouTuber and at the time boyfriend David Dobrik. In at number 9, Jake Paul. Whether or not you've ever enjoyed Jake Paul's content, he certainly has built an impressive fanbase over the years simply by acting like a maniac. He's garnered over 20 million subscribers on YouTube, most of which truly enjoyed the content that he's posted over the years. Jake already had some people beginning to hate him when he tried to sell a gambling service called Mystery Box to his young fans. But the straw that broke the camel's back came when he decided to do some filming in Arizona. During the riots that took place in multiple areas around the city, Jake found himself on camera being handled a bottle of vodka that was stolen from a PF Chang's. Following that, that, he was arrested for unlawful assembly and trespassing after multiple eyewitness accounts notified the police. Then on top of that arrest, his house was raided by the FBI in connection to the Arizona looting, and they uncovered a ton of weapons. In fact, one of them was just sitting next to his hot tub. Not sure why you'd need that so close. If you're in the hot tub, they're gonna get you. In number 8, Victoria Fuller. Victoria Fuller is probably best known for appearing as a contestant on season 24 of The Bachelor. On the side though, Victoria had dabbled with some modeling, but this gig in particular that she took was probably one of the dumbest things that she could have ever done. The campaign was called White Lives Matter and was meant to raise awareness for white marlins because they were classified as endangered species. Although when I looked into it, they weren't actually endangered. Even the merch itself was just beyond tone deaf, and one of the shirts actually had a modified Confederate flag on the back, which just added more fuel to the fire. As a result, Cosmopolitan magazine decided to cancel her photo shoot. Lauren Zima posted the photos and shared the story saying, "Sharing this, Cosmopolitan has decided not to digitally share and publish Peter and Victoria F's winning group date photos in tonight's Bachelor episode after photos surfaced of Victoria F apparently posing in White Lives Matter clothing." Not apparently, she was. In at number 7, Bryan Adams. It's safe to say that Bryan Adams will always remember the summer of COVID-19. I hope someone gets that joke. The 60-year-old Canadian singer stirred a ton of controversy after having to cancel a 3-night stint of shows in London. In the tweet he said, "Tonight was supposed to be the beginning of a tendency of gigs at the Royal Albert Hall, but thanks to some bat-eating, wet-mark, animal-selling, virus-making greedy bastards, the whole world is now on hold." Okay? Now, regardless of where the coronavirus came from, it's tweets like this that are causing a violent energy, if you will, towards Asian Americans. Oddly enough, Adams got more annoying when he tried to spin this tweet into an advocacy for a vegan diet. This really upset a lot of people, and rightfully so, and one user even commented, "Did not have Bryan Adams tweets racist bullshit as a 2020 moment, but here it is, right before our very eyes." In at number 6, J.K. Rowling. The author of Harry Potter will go down as having some of the most savage tweets out there. I mean, she has a strong passion for shutting down trolls. In reply to someone mocking her, well, J.K. Rowling said, "I'd type a longer retort, but these diamond buttons really hurt my fingers, although sometimes you can take things a little too far." In response again to a hater who said, "Glad I caught this article on Yahoo, I will now burn your books and movies too," J.K. Rowling replied with, "Well, the fumes from the DVDs might be toxic and I've still got your money, so by all means borrow my lighter." That is an insane thing to say to someone that is just criticizing your work. And just ignore them. If anything, you're J.K. Rowling. You're loaded. And she also just recently made some very transphobic tweets that utterly enraged whatever Harry Potter fans that she had left. In at number 5, Doja Cat. At the start of the pandemic, Doja Cat was upset that she had to stay in her home, and therefore she was spouting off about how weak the virus was. Weird flex, but okay. I believe she said it could be fixed with a little Mucinex, tea, and a cat nap. Huh? Comment if you got that. However, what really started the Doja Cat is over party was allegations that she had participated in a racist chat room. First, let's check out the original tweet that wanted her cancelled. This Twitter user said, "Why Doja Cat is being cancelled. She was an active member in racist chat rooms and was known for being anti-black. She made a song mocking police brutality." There was also a clip that someone had recorded of Doja right smack dab in the middle of an alt-right video chat. The bizarre thing with this one is that despite her claims that she was never part of this chat group, there was an interview that she did in 2019 with Paper Magazine where she clearly stated that she was obsessed with a chat room that she couldn't name. That was the chat room. In at number 4, Abby Lee Miller. Abby Lee Miller is another celebrity that is no stranger to creating controversies, and she did so many times in the reality TV hit show called Dance Moms. Throughout her time on the show, she has made numerous headlines for repeatedly screaming at her young students in her studio and has been called out for styling children in costumes that are barely in existence. She was once even sued by a 13-year-old dancer over allegations of emotional abuse. However, after Adriana Smith, mother of season 8 star Cameron Smith, alleged that Abby had made racist remarks towards them, she promptly pulled her daughter off the series. Miller denied the claims but then issued an apology saying, "I genuinely understand and deeply regret how my words have affected and hurt those around me in the past, particularly those in the black community. To Cameron, Adriana, and anyone else I've hurt, I am truly sorry." Regardless, the Lifetime Network decided to sever ties with Miller as a result of these allegations made against her. In at number 3, Jimmy Fallon. Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon apologized for doing an impersonation of fellow comic Chris Rock while in blackface during a 2000 episode of Saturday Night Live. Discussions of Jimmy's 20-year-old skit surfaced after a video of it was posted online. According to entertainment trade media outlet Variety, it was first posted on Twitter by a user named Chef Boy O'Dear, if you believe that's his name. Great name. And he showed Fallon as Chris Rock appearing on a talk show. When the clip began to go viral, many people called for Fallon to be fired from The Tonight Show altogether, although instead he just issued a lengthy apology. Fallon tweeted, in 2000 while on SNL, I made a terrible decision to do an impersonation of Chris Rock while in blackface. There is no excuse for this. I am very sorry for making this unquestionably offensive decision, and thank you all for holding me accountable. In at number 2, Chase Stokes. Netflix star Chase Stokes, who played John B in the series called Outer Banks, just recently had to go back through his Twitter and Facebook timeline to delete some older insensitive tweets. In one of those tweets, Chase said, "Why do fat people on planes insist on tightening their seatbelt as tight as it can possibly go? If we crash, that's definitely not saving you." He then made several other tweets using the R word to describe bad drivers in Orange County. Now, Chase took a bizarre hill to die on when he tried to explain these tweets. He apologized for them, but then claimed that his account was hacked back then, and that's why these offensive tweets were still up. If someone hacked your account, tweeted a bunch of weird stuff, you would go and delete that immediately, right? Chase tried to explain himself by tweeting, "In regards to me being hacked, because that seems to be a subject, I was hacked. I never said hackers deleted my messages. I understood that my past and what I said was hurtful, so I deleted my tweets to start fresh and not let things I said in the past continue to hurt people." So which is it? Did you say the offensive stuff and then go make a fresh? I'm so confused. So many questions, Chase. Last but certainly not least, at our number 1 spot, Sheena Shea. If you're a fan of Vanderpump Rules, I implore you to start calling celebrity Sheena stay at home. In a series of now deleted tweets, the star said, "Any of my friends working from home this week should come join me for a Palm Springs quarantine." Hey. Which wasn't a joke, because she went on to say, "I will continue to live my life in Palm Springs or MRD with my friends and not live it in complete isolation or fear. Simple as that. Call me ignorant, but I'm not gonna stop living." She got smacked, you guys, with people just ripping into her for being so dumb. This is not the time to be going on vacation with your friends. Listen to the World Health Organization when they tell you the importance of staying home. She soon apologized, saying, "For those who expressed concern or viewed my remarks as insensitive, I had just returned from a work trip and wasn't fully updated on the pandemic. I now understand the severity of our current predicament. Please stay safe and wash your damn hands." I guarantee you that that apology would not have come if she wasn't trying to salvage her reputation, whatever reputation she has.
Coming in at number 6, Blake Lively. Blake Lively once experienced the wrath of Disney after trying to sneak into Disneyland. In an interview with David Letterman, she revealed that when she was a kid, she and her brother tried sneaking into the theme park. Blake revealed that their plan of action was to take wristbands of people who had left the park and put hairspray on them in order to transfer the barcode onto themselves. They scanned through and got past the gates, only to be met with park security. Disney does not play around. The actress said that she and her brother were taken to Disney jail, where they were given a 1-year ban from the park. Luckily, after their year ban was up, they were allowed to return to the park with no problem, but I'm sure she never tried to sneak in anywhere again.
In at number 10, Gal Gadot. Imagine if celebrities singing from their mansions could fix this widespread panic. That's probably what Gal Gadot's first thought was the day that she decided to have a bunch of celebrities sing Imagine by John Lennon into their cell phones.
Hey, you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Oh god, that little smirk that she does at the end just says it all, doesn't it? Look how pleased she is with herself. On the plus side, instead of bringing the world together for one big kumbaya song, they instead united us in hatred. It was the only thing on the internet that people as a collective agreed was about as unnecessary as a DVD rewinder. That's a really dated joke. As a result of her trying to comfort her fans, Gal ended up feeling the full brunt of the Twitterati who threw a Gal Gadot is over party upon watching the tone-deaf video. In at number 9, Demi Lovato. Back in mid-April, Demi Lovato came under fire for allegedly having a fake Instagram account that she was using to bring down Selena Gomez. The tweet shows screenshots as well as Demi going live on her fake account, which apparently proved that it was indeed her. The canceller wrote on Twitter saying, "Demi Lovato's Finsta being exposed to reveal her obsession with bringing down Selena proves how disgusting she is. Hashtag Demi Lovato is over party." This account continued to plead her case for canceling Demi by adding more conspiracies to Demi Lovato's stands, making fake accounts to mess with the details. Specifically, there was one that claimed they personally edited the Demi post, but that's a weird angle to take because if you're a fan, why would you implicate her into this whole mess? Although Selena aside, Demi has publicly bashed other female artists, which just adds to the idea that she is, well, a fake feminist. In number 8, RuPaul. Fans of RuPaul's Drag Race were appalled after its namesake became a controversy that suggested that he was more behind the times than they initially believed. The show was created to be a forefront to celebrate the LGBTQ community, but RuPaul's comments put all of that progress into reverse. During an interview with The Guardian, writer Decca Aikenhead was questioning RuPaul about the contradiction between his playful sensibility and the militant stance that he has on the transgender movement. The writer noted that RuPaul seemed to pick his next words very carefully, but still said that he probably wouldn't have admitted a transgender woman like Peppermint if she had already already started her gender-affirming surgery. He went on to say, "You can identify as a woman and say you're transitioning, but it changes once you start changing your body. It takes on a different thing. It changes the whole concept of what we're doing." In at number 7, Sherry Pie. For RuPaul's Drag Race Season 12, they were burdened by a very strong accusation against one of their performers. Contestant Sherry Pie was axed from the show after he allegedly tried to groom and catfish 5 men. He had pretended to be a casting director and asked each of the men to send in videos of them doing very degrading things. Although upon the victims doing further research into this supposed casting director, they discovered that it was all just fake. The issue with taking Joey, who plays Sherry Pie, off the show though was that Sherry had won most of the competitions already, so he couldn't just be easily edited out. Sherry Pie has apologized and admitted that his behavior was terribly embarrassing. Regardless, he was disqualified from the show and the producers did their very best to remove most of his images, giving him very minimal screen time. In number 6, Terry Crews. First and foremost, let's begin with the tweet that Twitter decided was the breaking point for Terry Crews in his career. Towards the end of June, Terry tweeted, "If you are a child of God, you are my brother and sister. I have family of every race, creed, and ideology. We must ensure Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better." Many advocates for BLM were furious with Terry for even tweeting this because it felt reminiscent of the All Lives Matter counter movement, which was viewed as a way of delegitimizing the Black Lives Matter movement across the United States. Francesca Ramsey even commented on his post and said, "Terry, what in the actual hell? This is the very definition of a straw man argument. Why would you suggest that a movement created to advocate for the prosecution of cops and citizens responsible for racially motivated killings could somehow morph into we're better?" The point that she's making is that demanding black equality is not the same as black supremacy, as suggested by Terry's tweet. In number 5, Jenna Marbles. Jenna has been on YouTube for a very long time, and after multiple videos of hers blew up, she really began garnering millions of subscribers. 20 million to be more precise. Although in a video titled "A Message," Jenna addressed the controversy of her older content. She apologized for the video that she made impersonating Nicki Minaj in 2011 where she donned blackface and went on to say,
My intention to do blackface. I do want to tell you how unbelievably sorry I am if I ever offended you by posting this video.
In response to the outcry on the internet to have her cancelled, Jenna archived the old videos and announced that she would be stepping away from the channel. She said that she doesn't know if it's forever, but she wants to make sure that the things she puts out into the world aren't hurting anyone. In number 4, Kanye West. Kanye West is one of the few celebrities that are so rich and famous that he's almost immune to being cancelled. Back when he released his album titled Jesus is King, Kanye was quote unquote cancelled by music critics because the album received praise from Trump. Once Kanye started to run for the 2020 presidency though, that's where the real cancel culture started to come out. People were accusing him of trying to sabotage the election and even further condemned him when he became emotional at his rally. I mean, he was talking about an extremely sensitive topic and one that was close to his heart, but his ramblings made many worry that he may actually get elected. In another failed attempt to cancel Kanye, he ignored his critics and spoke about how it was racist for people to assume that he was swaying black Americans from voting for Joe Biden. In number 3, Jessica Mulroney. CTV announced that they would be removing Jessica's reality show called I Do Redo because her recent conduct conflicted with the broadcaster's commitment to diversity and equality. Influencer Sasha Exeter accused Mulroney of trying to threaten her livelihood. Recently, Sasha made a post about the importance of speaking out against racism, and it was oddly met with criticism from Jessica. Exeter said that she was not calling Jessica racist, but said that she is very well aware of her wealth and power along with the privilege that she is afforded due to her skin color. Apparently, Jessica took offense to Sasha simply asking her audience to support speaking out against racism. All of those comments have since been deleted, but what will stay up forever is this letter from CTV that said, "Because recent conduct by one of our show hosts, Jessica Mulroney, conflicts with our commitment to diversity and equality, CTV has removed I Do Redo from all Bell Media channels and platforms effective immediately." In number 2, Cardi B. Similar to what happened with Demi Lovato, Cardi B woke up one morning to discover that Cardi B is Over Party was trending on Twitter, with the claim being that she too had faked an Instagram account. The accusation was that Cardi B was using the Finsta to throw shade at other entertainers in the industry. This apparent fake account had been used to bash the likes of Ariana Grande, Lil Kim, Meg Thee Stallion, and Doja Cat, all of which have very dedicated fan bases that were quick to cancel Cardi when they believed that she was behind it all. Although Cardi relented that the whole thing was just dumb, and in a statement about the cancellation rumor she said, "Let me make this clear, I am not a 15-year-old girl that does fake Instagrams that talk about celebrities. I have a whole life, a whole kid." I hope you have a whole kid. "Just to feed my kid, it takes me about 35 minutes, an hour to bathe her and do her hair, then I gotta do my own thing. I don't got time to do that shit." lot of bleeping in there. Apparently she didn't do it. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, Amber Heard. This was perhaps one of the biggest cancel culture moments of the year thus far. The war between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard has gone on for many years, but for the majority of the time, Depp was always painted as the bad guy. When Heard was exposed as a domestic abuser in his $50 million lawsuit, we got to hear all the insane things that she had done to him. A Change.org page was started as well that wanted her removed from Aquaman 2, and with over 480,000 signatures, they are almost at their goal. If she does indeed get removed from the project, it's safe to say that this will go down in history as one of the biggest wins for the cancel culture mob.
Halfway through at number 5, Nicki Minaj. Sometimes fans can be a little too much, and Nicki Minaj knows that feeling all too well. The rapper was kicked out of and banned from the Dorchester Hotel in London after her fans, or as she calls them, barbs, became too much for the hotel staff to handle. After arriving at the hotel, Nicki's fans swarmed the place hoping to catch a glimpse of their music icon. It was reported that though they were asked to leave by hotel staff and security, they just wouldn't budge and even started tagging the hotel elevator with graffiti. There were fans camping outside of the hotel, and it was even reported that a fight broke out, resulting in an ambulance having to be called to the area. Staff were really just fed up with the Barb's antics and asked Nicki and her team to find another venue and banned her from the hotel as a result. Even though Nicki has said that she and her fans are a package deal, I don't think the hotels and venues like that idea very much.
In at number 10, Joel McHale. Joel McHale garnered a decent sized fan base from starring in the show Community and hosting talk shows like The Soup, which was eventually transitioned into The Joel McHale Show. The show was a Netflix comedy web series that started in February of 2018 and featured Joel giving his sharp, absurdist opinion on pop culture and news from across the globe. Each episode would be developed in the week prior so that all of the content included could be topical and relevant. When it came to the cancellation of The Joel McHale Show, it had nothing to do with a controversy or issues working with Joel. Unfortunately, Netflix had ordered 6 additional episodes of the series, which were released simultaneously 2 months later. But just a month after that, they had to cancel the show. When Joel came on SiriusXM with Jim Norton and Sam Roberts, he told them that Netflix pulled the plug because they didn't like his sweaters. He then laughed off that comment and said that Netflix had trained their audience to binge watch, and they tried that with his show, but it just didn't work. Ultimately, Netflix canceled the show due to low viewership. In at number 9, Peyton Kennedy. Peyton Kennedy was the star of the show on Netflix called Everything Sucks. This was a comedy drama web series created by Ben York Jones and Michael Mohan that was meant to be a parody of teen culture in the mid-1990s. Ironically, it took place in the real-life town of Boring, Oregon, and unfortunately for the cast and crew, Netflix viewers found the show, well, boring. After just 1 season, Netflix announced that they would be canceling the show, and I'm only using Peyton's name as the placeholder for the show's cancellation, but luckily Netflix was able to fit her into a different show. Following the cancellation of this new Netflix show, Peyton went on to act in the show Grey's Anatomy as the character Betty Nelson. She only did 12 episodes with the show, but that's still 2 more than the show Everything Sucks. In at number 8, Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates was the star of a Netflix comedy series called Disjointed. It was all about Ruth Feldman, who spent decades advocating for legalized cannabis use. Upon California legalizing it, she starts her own dispensary and begins to navigate the highs and lows of that business. The show ran into some trouble when trying to stream in other countries where recreational marijuana and even medical marijuana is still illegal. The odd thing with Netflix canceling this show altogether was that at the root of its production was the prolific producer Chuck Lorre. Unfortunately, the show ran for 20 episodes before low viewership and bad ratings led to Netflix canceling it altogether.
At number 7, lockdown layoffs. During the first lockdown the world experienced last spring, there were a lot of changes in many workplaces. Some people were transitioning to working from home, and many others sadly lost their jobs. This was a very uncertain time for a lot of people, including many Ellen Show employees, because of a huge lack in communication. Shortly after the show made their transition from the studio to home, news came out reporting about how Ellen Show employees had been replaced by non-union workers in order to cut down on the cost of paying their other employees. As a result, a lot of employees were left in the dark and without pay for a few weeks, which just angered more people and made Ellen look worse. At this point, she was not only experiencing backlash for being a bully towards her employees, but also for causing layoffs as well as pay deductions.
In at number 6, Drew Barrymore. The show Santa Clarita Diet was one of the last things that Drew Barrymore had actually starred in. The show was a horror comedy web series created by Victor Fresco for Netflix. Fresco was the showrunner and executive producer alongside Barrymore. It was a single cam show that premiered in February of 2017 and generally received positive reviews. In the show, Drew's character undergoes a bizarre metamorphosis where she basically becomes a zombie that craves human flesh. Her husband and kids then basically have to help her deal with this, as their mother constantly has to refrain herself from eating the neighbors. Cindy Holland, who is the head of original content at Netflix, said during a conference that when they invest into a show, they decide how much to invest based on the audience that shows up. If the audience isn't showing up, they begin to question if they should be investing more into it. In the case of Santa Clarita Diet, Holland felt that there was no viable reason to keep pumping more money into it, and thus it was cancelled. In at number 5, Jake Paul. Whether or not you've ever enjoyed Jake Paul's content, he certainly has built an impressive fan base over the years simply by acting like a maniac. He has garnered over 20 million subscribers on YouTube, most of which truly love the content that he's posted over the years. Jake already had some people beginning to hate him when he tried to sell a gambling service called Mystery Box to his young fans, but the straw that broke the camel's back came when he decided to do some filming in Arizona. During the riots that took place in multiple areas around the city, Jake found himself on camera being handed a bottle of vodka that was stolen from a P.F. Chang's. The best kind of vodka, I guess? Following that, he was arrested for unlawful assembly and trespassing after multiple eyewitness accounts notified the police. Then on top of that arrest, his house was raided by the FBI in connection to the Arizona looting, and they uncovered a ton of weapons, one of which was just chilling next to his hot tub. Very irresponsible, canceled himself. In at number 4, Hasan Minhaj. The Patriot Act with Hasan Minhaj was a comedy talk show that premiered in 2018 and ran until June 28, 2020. The show had won an Emmy, a Peabody Award, and 2 Webby Awards before Netflix canceled the series after 6 seasons. Unfortunately, Netflix realized that despite rave reviews from critics, all of their talk shows were just not doing well. Hence the reason Michelle Wolf and Joel McHale both had their shows cancelled as well. In response to finding out the news, Hasan tweeted, "What a run, Patriot Act has come to an end. I got to work with the best writers, producers, researchers, and animators in the game. My 2 babies were born and grew up with the show. Thank you to Netflix and everyone who watched. Now it's time to return those screens to Best Buy." Despite Netflix believing that this was the right move, there were hundreds of comments saying that they were going to cancel their subscriptions, so who knows, maybe we will see the show coming back. Hashtag uncancel Patriot Act.
At number 3, Nikki Tutorial's interview. One of the instances that was sort of the fuel for this Ellen is Over party fire was YouTuber Nikki Tutorial's testimony about how she was treated after she was invited on the show in January last year. During an interview in March of last year, Nikki spoke out about the atmosphere at the Ellen show, saying, quote, "The friendly, welcoming atmosphere you see when watching Ellen isn't the reality in the studio." Nikki said that she was expecting a warm welcome when arriving at the studio, but that she was instead, quote, "greeted by an angry intern who was a bit overworked." Nikki also told sources that she didn't receive the same VIP treatment as everyone else, saying that she couldn't even use the bathroom closest to her because it was reserved for the Jonas Brothers, who were also on the show that day. She also commented on Ellen's personality, saying that she was very cold and distant when the cameras were off, making for a very different vibe on the show. This was a very different response than people were expecting, so this became big news, which later escalated into a much bigger scandal.
In at number 2, Danny Masterson. Danny, who is best known for his role as Hyde on That 70s Show, was recently charged with 3 counts of rape. So far, there have been 3 victims that have stepped forward with separate incidents that occurred between 2001 and 2003. All the alleged crimes are believed to have taken place at his home in the Hollywood Hills. If convicted, he's looking at a sentence of 45 years to life in a state prison. For those of you who don't know, Danny is also involved with the Church of Scientology. After the charges were laid against him, Leah Remini took to Twitter with joy that the victims of Scientology were finally being heard. This is most definitely an insinuation that the church had previously covered up what Danny had been doing in order to protect their image. Although we cannot confirm these claims, it does seem like something they would do. Back in 2017 though, he was also fired from the Netflix show called The Ranch amid these allegations. Last but certainly not least, at our number 1 spot, Kevin Spacey. Kevin used to be a highly sought after actor and by far one of the most demanded performers of his generation. However, after a fellow actor named Anthony Rapp bravely came forward during the Me Too movement to accuse Spacey of forcing himself upon Rapp when he was only 14 years old. Following that, 15 other men came forward and accused Kevin of similar crimes, which led to his character being written off of the Netflix show House of Cards. Kevin then made the situation worse for himself by declaring that he was part of the LGBTQ community, for which they denied any association. Even if he was part of that community, it still didn't excuse his very inappropriate behavior with a minor, and Netflix wanted to distance themselves as far away as possible from Kevin Spacey.
At number 4, Lindsay Lohan. Speaking of hotels, it turns out Lindsay Lohan was also banned from a hotel, this time being the Chateau Marmont in West Hollywood. It was reported that the hotel had asked Lindsay to remove her belongings and leave the premises after she was unable to settle her $46,000 hotel bill. Yeah. Lohan, who had been staying at the hotel for 2 months, had racked up a bill totaling $46,350, and she received a letter from the hotel's general manager which said, quote, "As we have made repeated attempts to resolve this pressing matter over the last few weeks without any resolution, I regret to inform you that we are no longer able to extend any further credit for you to remain in the hotel. Please have all of your belongings removed from Suite 33 by 12 p.m. Wednesday, August 1st, 2012. They also sent her a list of expenses from the hotel, and let me tell you, that list is long. Like several pages of bills. Over the course of her stay, she racked up thousands of dollars worth of cigarettes, minibar items, and dining expenses as well. She's since been able to settle her debts with the hotel, but she really evaded that one for a while. Over $40,000! My god.
In at number 10, Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star's cosmetics company has brought in hundreds of millions of dollars, and according to Forbes, he is now one of the most powerful figures in the industry. Star first rose to fame when his makeup vlogs on YouTube became very popular. From there, he went on to launch his own cosmetics line. Before that though, he was a modestly successful MySpace musician. However, now that he is intertwined with all the drama happening in the beauty community, he is being bombarded with hatred, and rightfully so. Cameron Lester called him and Shane Dawson out for using him as their token black friend for videos, and from there it just got worse. Their troublesome friendship really came about when Shane wanted to document Star in what would be called the beautiful world of Jeffree Star. Following Cameron's video, Jeffree left him a voicemail and denied his allegations against him. The voicemails were eventually leaked to drama channels and contributed to the negative wave that would soon erupt after Shane acknowledged the rumors about his role in the feud between Charles, Westbrook, and Star. Now before we hit number 9, we need you guys to hit that like button. In at number 9, Gal Gadot. Imagine if celebrities singing from their mansions could fix this widespread pandemic. That's probably what Gal Gadot's first thought was the day that she decided to have a bunch of celebrities sing Imagine by John Lennon into their cell phones.
Someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
That little smirk at the end though, it just says it all, doesn't it? I mean, look how pleased she is with herself. On the plus side, instead of bringing the world together for one big kumbaya song, they instead united us in hate. It was the only thing on the internet that people as a collective agreed was about as unnecessary as a DVD rewinder. As a result of her trying to comfort her fans, Gal ended up feeling the full brunt of the Twitterati who threw a Gal Gadot is over party upon watching the tone deaf video. In at number 8, Tory Lanez. Canadian rapper Tory Lanez, whose real name is Daystar Peterson, really gained mass popularity through this pandemic by constantly doing Instagram live sessions. His show was called Quarantine Radio and featured a ton of content that broke the community guidelines of Instagram. That being said, he was still crowned the quarantine king by his followers. With clout around his name now, we saw Tory hanging around the likes of bigger celebrities like Kylie Jenner and Megan Thee Stallion. Which brings us to what Tory was being exposed for. Megan was in a car with Tory and a member of his security team driving through an LA neighborhood. Apparently an argument took place that resulted in Megan deciding that she was going to get out and walk to where she was staying. However, before she could do so, Tory allegedly shot her in the foot.
So, since y'all hoes so worried about it, yes, this nigga Tory shot me. You shot.
Either way, Meg calling Tory out led to many of his fans turning on him, and thus another celebrity was cancelled. By themselves. In at number 7, Naomi Watts. Gypsy was a psychological thriller and web series created by Lisa Rubin for Netflix and had Naomi Watts starring as Jean Holloway, a PhD in clinical psychologist based out of NYC. In the show, her character begins to overstep personal and professional boundaries as she begins to develop relationships with people close to her patients. The show had a 10-episode run on Netflix, but according to Rotten Tomatoes, it only received a 38% rating based on 40 reviews. The critics' consensus stated that Gypsy was a ludicrous plot that trudges along as it drags its talented cast with it. The show marked two-time Oscar nominee Naomi Watts' first starring TV series role, but when it came to renew the show, Netflix ultimately passed on it. When it came down to it, Netflix had to pick between renewing the women's wrestling comedy show called Glow or picking Gypsy up again, and so they settled with continuing Glow and thus canceling Naomi Watts. In at number 6, Vanessa Hudgens. In perhaps one of the most tone-deaf videos I've seen in a long time, the actress showed us how truly uneducated her opinions were with this video.
Even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are gonna die. It's just terrible, but like, inevitable?
She sounds like if Thanos was a Valley girl. During an Instagram live, which apparently everyone and their mother is doing now, she decided to reply to some fans. Obviously people were asking her about the current situation and what her thoughts were on it, but man did those replies ever go viral. She said before that clip that staying in lockdown until July is BS, and then she word for word said this: "I'm sorry, but like, it's a virus, I get it, I respect it." First of all, how does one respect the virus? Oh yeah, by staying inside and away from your grandparents. When people started getting angry with her comments, she said that they were taken out of context, but then failed to provide the context.
At number 5, privilege. While people were still discussing how Ellen was really behind the scenes, the theme of privilege came up and a lot of people called her out for it. After her tone-deaf joke about comparing life in quarantine to life in incarceration, people kept looking for more examples of how she lives such a privileged life. And one person came forward with an example that shocked a lot of people. Back in May last year, a former Ellen Show producer spoke out about how Ellen once called Steve Jobs personally to complain about the font size on the iPhone. This came after Ellen lost her glasses and was having trouble reading the text on her phone. The former producer recalled the incident saying, quote, "She stopped everything and made a call. Next thing we know, we literally hear Steve Jobs pick up and say, 'Hi, Ellen.'" Ellen told him the iPhone should have bigger font. He continues saying, quote, "That's her. It's not that she's some demon. She just lives in an incredibly privileged bubble and is out of touch with the real world."
In at number 4, Bryan Adams. It's safe to say that Bryan Adams will always remember the summer of COVID-19. The 60-year-old Canadian singer stirred a ton of controversy after having to cancel a 3-night stint of shows in London. In the tweet he said, "Tonight was supposed to be the beginning of a tendency of gigs at the Royal Albert Hall, but thanks to some bat-eating, wet market, animal-selling, virus-making greedy bastards, the whole world is on hold." Now, regardless of where the coronavirus came from, it's tweets like this that are causing a violent energy towards Asian Americans. Oddly enough, Adams got more annoying when he tried to spin this tweet into an advocacy of a vegan diet. This really upset a lot of people, and rightfully so. One user had this to say: "Did not have Bryan Adams tweets racist as a 2020 moment, but here it is, right before our very eyes." In at number 3, Chris D'Elia. Chris D'Elia was cancelled because he had been accused of grooming and attempting to solicit nude photographs from underage girls. A woman named Simone tweeted out a screenshot of her alleged interactions with Chris, which began a thread of other women sharing their interactions with him as well. The stories were all pretty horrific considering that they were all allegedly underage at the time that Chris had sent these messages to them. However, in response to having his name dragged through the mud online, Chris told TMZ, "I know I have said and done things that might have offended people during my career, but I have never knowingly pursued any underage women at any point." Chris then goes on to say, "All of my relationships have been both legal and consensual, and I have never met or exchanged any appropriate photos with the people who have tweeted about me." Regardless, Netflix decided to scrap the plans that they had for Chris to be the star of a new prank show on the platform. In at number 2, Shane Dawson. After what happened to George Floyd, America went into civil unrest and the people demanded answers from law enforcement. Along with that, however, comes the necessary task of curating our culture to get rid of the problematic people who only add fuel to the fire. Getting rid of sounds awful, but what I mean is hold them responsible or accountable so that we can at least admit our mistakes and move forwards as a society. The weirdest part about Shane Dawson doing blackface is that he's done it on more than one occasion and done so in a time where you kind of thought that people would be more tolerant. Even weirder is that when he apologized for taking his sketches too far with blackface, a bunch of his white fans were like, "Ah, we forgive you. Sorry to say this, but that apology isn't meant for you. It's meant for the people that he was mocking, and I don't think letting this one slide was a wise idea. There have been so many red flags with him, but this one should have been the final straw. However, it wasn't, so he continued on as if nothing happened." Last but certainly least on our number 1 spot, Madonna. Madonna was one of the many celebrities that we talked about on this list that either felt the need to share their views on the virus or outright claim that we don't have to worry about it. Madonna received a ton of backlash after a video she posted to Instagram of her enjoying a bath while ranting about the pandemic. The clip was shared to her nearly 15 million followers as she sat in a bathtub filled with rose petals while listening to some very creepy piano music in the background.
How old you are, what amazing stories you can tell. It's the great equal.
Then she ends the whole video giving her legion of fans little to no hope whatsoever. She closes out by saying, "Like I used to say at the end of Human Nature every night, if the ship goes down, we're all going down together." Oh, thanks Madonna, that really calmed me down. The backlash for this post was insane, with many calling her and other celebrities out for getting early access to testing kits and somehow still finding a way to complain about it.
Coming in at number 3, Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton, the great-granddaughter of the founder of the Hilton Hotels, has ironically been banned from a hotel that luckily isn't one of her namesakes. In 2010, Paris was banned from 2 Wynn Resort hotels in Las Vegas after an incident occurred which led to police catching the heiress with just under a gram of no snow in her purse. It is said that police caught Hilton red-handed as she was looking through her purse for lip balm, and then that's when the bag of no sugar fell out. As one would, she tried to cover her butt by saying that she borrowed the purse from a friend and that it wasn't actually hers, but police didn't believe her and she was arrested for the felony possession charge. This incident didn't just get her banned from the hotel either. She was also banned from the country of Japan because of her drug charge. The country's immigration department has a very strict rule against letting anyone with a criminal record in. So guys, just don't do drugs. Just don't. Especially if you want to go to Japan.
At number 10, toxic workplace. Allegations of a toxic work environment was the scandal that really started it all. There had been some buzz surrounding how Ellen treats others, whether that be guests on her show or employees, but things really started to pick up when real people started coming forward about how they were being treated while working at the Ellen Show. A number of former employees came forward to expose Ellen for being a horrible boss. Some people brought up how she would use racial microaggressions and how she would pick on each one of her employees. Actor Benjamin Simon came forward with 6 stories about Ellen that showed the world just how mean she really is and how disrespectful she is to her staff. Benjamin tweeted out about how Ellen reportedly has a quote, sensitive nose and requires everyone to chew gum before talking to her, and will also order people to go home and shower if she doesn't like the way you smell. He also added that Ellen would make a point of picking on a different employee every day, and that when she's in a bad mood, she gets staff members to come to her office and forces them to do comedy bits for her to cheer her up by laughing at them. Benjamin also said that if Ellen doesn't like the monologue that someone wrote for her that day, she will throw it on the floor, refusing to do it. These and countless other stories revealed to the public just how toxic things are over at the Ellen Show, and this first scandal marked the beginning of the comedian's downfall. At number 9, quarantine comments. In April last year, when everyone was stuck inside during the world's first COVID lockdown, a lot of people started working from home, including Ellen DeGeneres. The Ellen Show was being broadcast from her home, and on April 6th, during her opening monologue, Ellen made some comments about her quarantine experience that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. During the episode, Ellen compared her experience of staying in her home to being in jail, saying, quote, "One thing I've learned from being in quarantine is that this is like being in jail. It is what it is. It's mostly because I've been wearing the same clothes for 10 days and everyone here is gay." These comments were not taken very well by the public, and the comedian faced a lot of backlash for comparing her experience of quarantining in her California mansion to living in incarceration, where COVID infections are already incredibly high. Her comments were seen as offensive to those currently living in incarceration because their lives are more greatly at risk because of the infection rates, and a lot of people interpreted her monologue as making fun of those who aren't as privileged to be living in a mansion like she is. At number 8, Hollywood mean streak. After Ellen was exposed for her toxic workplace environment, people started coming forward with their horror stories of the comedian. At first, former employees were jumping on the Ellen is over party trend, but soon some celebrities started commenting on their experiences with Ellen, and a lot of them reminded the public that Ellen's bad attitude isn't anything new. For years, celebrities have known about Ellen's Hollywood mean streak, and some of them have come forward to expose her. Fellow comedian Kathy Griffin has been very outspoken about Ellen's mean streak and even wrote about it in her book, Kathy Griffin's Celebrity Run-Ins, My A to Z Index. In her book, she dished about some awful run-ins that she's had with Ellen, detailing some of the mean things she's done to her. In the book, she wrote, quote, "I can't prove it, but this person who has short blonde hair has a mean streak that all of Hollywood knows about." But it's not just Kathy who says Ellen's mean streak has been common knowledge, as comedian Brad Garrett also chimed in to speak his truth about who Ellen really is behind the scenes. After Ellen issued an apology to her staff members, which we will talk about later, some people weren't buying into this declaration, including Brad Garrett. In response to Ellen's apology, he tweeted saying, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top, at the Ellen Show. No more than one were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." Maybe he was speaking from experience having worked in the same industry as her, or because he had been a guest on her show a few times in the mid-2000s. The fact that he and Kathy, as well as a few other celebrities, called Ellen's mean streak common knowledge really helped prove that it's not just her employees who've had bad experiences with her.
In number 7, Chet Hanks.
What's up, everyone? Yeah, it's true. My parents got coronavirus. Crazy.
Chet Hanks must be the least favorite kid in the Hank household right now. Not only did he do this response shirtless, but his whole attitude seemed very casual about the fact that his mom and dad were locked down and actually have COVID. Not only that, but when he got some backlash for this, he just doubled down on the crazy. Chester then started trolling Tom Hanks fans that his family was in the Illuminati. Yes, because in times of absolute chaos, we need this Grand Theft Auto character spewing nonsense to the world, and further stirring the conspiracy pot. He then started joking even more about how he's going to have to work extra hard on his human sacrifices because he's feeling hungry. Will someone please take this man's phone away from him, because nothing good happens when the camera points in his direction.
I think it's all gonna be alright, but I appreciate it, and just everybody stay safe out there. Much love.
At number 6, racial injustice tweet. At the height of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, many celebrities were coming forward to talk about the racial injustices many black people around the world have been facing. Some of them tweeted about it, others went to protest, but overall, most of them tried to do their part by spreading awareness. Ellen tried to do this, but it didn't go over very well, as many people thought she missed the mark with her BLM tweet. In her later deleted tweet about racial injustice, Ellen said, quote, "Like so many of you, I am angry, I am sad. People of color in this country have faced injustice for far too long. For things to change, we must change. We must commit ourselves to this change with conviction and love." A lot of people didn't like how she used the term people of color instead of just saying black people, as the movement was surrounding the racism that black people have endured and continue to endure. After deleting the post, Ellen corrected herself by issuing another tweet showing her support for the Black Lives Matter protests and also pledging to donate to a handful of charities and organizations.
In at number 5, Brit Marling. The OA debuted in 2016, and it was really because of the hard work that Brit Marling put into it. She first rose to prominence after starring in several films that premiered at the Sundance Festival, but following that she wanted to cast herself into a show that she actually enjoyed. As a result of that desire, she wrote the series and pitched it to Netflix, with the creator of the show also taking on the lead role. It received mass praise from Netflix viewers. As the show continued into its second season though, the effects, like special effects if you will, began to get bigger and bigger, and the beauty of the first season was that it just seemed to be fairly low budget, but the second season proved just how much you can do if Netflix believes in your show. Unfortunately, the viewership though was just not there for the second season, and then on top of that, network executives had decided that the show was just too big of a creative swing to attract new viewers, which is another thing that they have to always be keeping on their mind. Netflix wants people that will binge watch their content, and they want to promote TV shows that will make someone want to subscribe to the platform. Unfortunately, because Brit Marling lacked the star power and still cost them tons of money, the show was cut short.
At number 4, apology fail. Following all the backlash that she'd been receiving, when The Ellen Show made its return after a quarantine hiatus, Ellen had to make amends for her actions and had to address some of the allegations against her, like misconduct and workplace toxicity. During her opening monologue, the comedian issued an apology for the things that she'd been accused of, but it didn't really go over well with her audience. During her apology, Ellen admitted that she was, quote, "a work in progress," and that she wasn't aware of the negativity in her workplace. Ellen also joked that she isn't a good enough actress to, quote, "come out here every day for 17 years and fool you." People didn't like how she mostly deflected and made jokes about the situation she was caught in, rather than owning up to her actions, which really just made her look worse in the public's eye and added to her growing criticism.
In at number 3, Jenna Marbles. Jenna had been on YouTube for a very long time, and after multiple videos of hers blew up, she began garnering millions of subscribers, 20 million to be more precise, although in a video titled A Message, Jenna addressed the controversy of her older content. She apologized for the video that she made impersonating Nicki Minaj in 2011, where she donned blackface and went on to say,
It's not my intention to do blackface. I do want to tell you how unbelievably sorry I am if I ever offended you.
In response to a small group of people on the internet trying to have her canceled, Jenna archived the old videos and announced that she would be stepping away from her channel, thus canceling herself. She said that she doesn't know if it's forever, but she wants to make sure that the things she puts out in the world aren't hurting anyone, and we agree. Although I don't agree that she should step away forever. Jenna Marbles, totally unproblematic. She should definitely come back at some point.
At number 2, Dakota Johnson interview. The other incident many people think of as the beginning of the Ellen is Over party comes from actress Dakota Johnson's 2019 interview with the comedian. During the interview, Ellen berated Dakota about the fact that she wasn't invited to Dakota's birthday party, and many people saw this whole debate as incredibly unnecessary and uncalled for. Dakota stood her ground during the interview, shutting Ellen down and not being made to look like the bad guy like Ellen intended, but this also showed how Ellen can sometimes go too far. Fans didn't like the way that the actress was treated during her time on the show, and after Ellen was canceled, some saw this as justice for Dakota because Ellen was no longer able to get away with behaving like this. And finally, at number 1, Twitter. At the height of Ellen's cancellation, podcaster Kevin T. Porter sent out a tweet asking for people to share their horror stories about the comedian, and he said that he would make a $2 donation to a food bank for every insane story he received. Because of this tweet, a lot of people came forward talking about their bad experiences with Ellen, and this really added most of the heat to Ellen's growing fire. It wasn't just former employees and celebrities who came forward either. Fans and other people who have encountered Ellen off camera were also coming forward to recount some of their horrible experiences services with her. Because of the amount of people who tweeted in response to this prompt, it caused this scandal to grow bigger and bigger, painting Ellen to look more and more like a villain, as news sources started picking up on the biggest and most outrageous stories to report on. Kevin's tweet received 2,800 replies, along with over 17,000 retweets and over 70,000 likes. This tweet blew up and made the scandal erupt to become even bigger than anyone thought it would, and caused immeasurable damage to Ellen's career. If it wasn't for this massive attention this tweet got, Ellen's career might not have been as damaged as it is now.
At number 2, Ariana Grande. Do you guys remember that Ariana Grande donut incident? That one was really buried deep in my brain until I read this story again. For those who have no clue what I'm talking about, in 2015, Ariana Grande was caught licking a donut on display at a donut shop called Wolfie Donuts in Lake Elsinore, California. She and her friends were visiting the shop when they dared the pop star to lick the donut. Seemed harmless enough until the footage of that incident was posted online. She was also captured making some less than friendly remarks about Americans for some reason. Once she was exposed on social media for her behavior, she issued an apology to her fans and to the bakery for her actions. It was also reported that the bakery's owner had originally wanted to press charges but decided against it in the end. But instead, she's been banned from the establishment ever since. Finally, at number 1, Lil Wayne. Turns out Lil Wayne has quite a rocky past when it comes to the NBA. In 2012, he was denied entry to an Oklahoma City Thunders game after what seemed to have been a ticketing mix-up. And then in 2013, there was an altercation during a Lakers vs. Heat game that left him not only banned from the game, but just banned from all NBA events. Apparently, the rapper got into a verbal altercation with a fan in the stands, and this outburst led to him gesturing to the fan that he had a gun. This led to him allegedly leaving the stadium on his own accord and being banned from all NBA events. Just to make matters worse, he then went on a Twitter rampage, as one does, saying some NSFW stuff about the NBA and Chris Bosh's wife. Way to leave things on good terms, dude.